Ashe stood on the ramparts of her ancestral fortress, eyes sharp and focused on the horizon. The cold winds of the Freljord whipped around her, carrying with them the distant echoes of an approaching storm. Her heart felt as heavy as the clouds above, burdened by the weight of 1,000 unspoken words and 100 unresolved battles. The Frost Archer's once unshakable resolve now seemed as fragile as the first frost of winter. The fortress walls, once gleaming with the pride of the Freljord, now bore the scars of recent skirmishes. The courtyard bustled with warriors sharpening their weapons and tending to their wounds. The air had anticipation and dread, the scent of impending conflict mingling with the faint aroma of roasting meat from the communal fires. Ashe knew that the time for peace had passed, it was the time for action, for unity. Her gaze shifted to the grand hall where Tryndamere, her husband and the Barbarian King, sat brooding by the fireplace. His muscular frame, once a beacon of strength and reassurance, now seemed weighed down by his own burdens. The fire cast flickering shadows across his face, emphasizing the lines etched by countless battles and the unspoken tension that had grown between them. The flames reflected in his eyes, mirroring the internal war that raged within. The call to arms had been sent, a plea for help echoing across the vast tundras and through the icy veins of the Freljord. The whispers grew louder each day, speaking of Lissandra's return, an enemy long thought vanquished. The Ice Witch had re-emerged, and with her, a new, terrifying power that threatened to engulf the very lands they had sworn to protect. Ashe knew that she could not face this new threat alone, she needed Tryndamere by her side. Yet, as she watched him, lost in his own thoughts, she couldn't help but wonder if the rift between them had grown too wide to bridge. With a deep sigh, Ashe descended from the ramparts and approached her king. His eyes met hers, a tempest of emotion swirling within their depths. "We must speak," she said firmly, her voice cutting through the crackling fire. Tryndamere nodded, the gravity of the situation weighing on him as heavily as his battle-worn armor. They sat before the roaring fire, the warmth a stark contrast to the chill outside. Ashe laid out her plans, detailing the movements of the enemy and the strategy she had devised to combat them. Tryndamere listened intently, his gaze never leaving hers as she spoke of alliances and battles to come. Yet, every so often, his eyes would drift to the ring on her finger, a symbol of the love and trust that had once bound them so fiercely together. "And what of us?" he finally asked, his voice a low rumble that seemed to resonate through the very stones of the fortress. "What of our alliance?" Ashe felt the sting of his words, but she knew that this was a conversation they could no longer avoid. "We are stronger together, Tryndamere," she said softly, her hand reaching out to cover his. "Our marriage is more than just a political ploy, it is the foundation of our people's hope. We must find a way to mend what has been broken." For a moment, the only sound in the grand hall was the crackling of the fire. Then, slowly, Tryndamere's hand curled around hers, squeezing tight. "I fear that I have failed you, Ashe," he admitted, his voice thick with regret. "I have allowed my pride to stand between us, to cloud my judgment." The Freljord's fate hung in the balance, and with it, the future of their love. Ashe searched his eyes, looking for the man she had once known, the warrior whose fierce passion had matched her own. And there, amidst the shadows of doubt and fear, she found a glimmer of hope. Together, they stood, ready to face not just the looming threat of Lissandra and her icy grip, but the personal battles that lay before them as well. Their hearts pounding in unison, they stepped into the cold, their breaths forming clouds in the air. The snow crunched beneath their boots as they made their way to the stables, their eyes locked on the horizon. The journey ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but as they swung onto their mounts and rode forth into the blistering winds, they knew that their shared destiny was greater than any obstacle they would face. The Freljord called for unity, and they would be the ones to answer, as leaders, as warriors, and as lovers rediscovering the warmth within each other's embrace amidst the frozen wasteland. Their first stop was the Sewani, a tribe renowned for their unyielding spirit and brutal tactics. Ashe had sent envoys to negotiate an alliance, but the air was thick with tension as they approached the camp. The Sewani were notorious for their distrust of outsiders, and the scent of war painted the frozen earth with a grim promise of bloodshed. Upon their arrival, they were met by a wall of stoic faces and gleaming spearheads. The chieftain, a towering woman with skin as tough as the land she ruled, regarded them with cold, assessing eyes. "You come to us seeking aid," she said, her voice cutting through the wind. "What can you offer in return?" Ashe and Tryndamere exchanged a knowing glance. This was the first test of their united front, a dance of diplomacy that required every ounce of their combined cunning and charisma. They spoke of their shared history, of battles won and enemies defeated. They promised protection and friendship, a bond forged not just in steel, but in the very essence of the Freljord itself. The chieftain's expression remained unreadable, but there was a softening in her stance. The air grew still, and for a heartbeat, it seemed as if the fate of their alliance hung in the balance. And then, with a grunt that might have been approval, she lowered her spear and extended a hand. "We fight together," she said, her grip as firm as the ice beneath their feet. Their coalition grew, tribe by tribe, each pledging their might to the cause. Yet, the prophecy weighed heavily on Ashe's mind. In the quiet moments between battles and strategy sessions, she found herself drawn back to the ancient carvings within the fortress's deepest chamber, a room that seemed to echo with whispers of long-forgotten lore. There, in the flickering light of torches, she traced the runes that spoke of a frost archer whose heart could thaw the coldest of enemies and heal the deepest of rifts. One night, as a fierce blizzard howled outside, Ashe felt the icy walls of the chamber pulse with a strange, otherworldly energy. Tryndamere, unable to sleep, found her there, her eyes wide with a mix of wonder and fear. The prophecy spoke of a power within her, one that could only be unlocked by the purest love and trust between two souls. It dawned on them both, this was not just about defeating Lissandra, it was about rediscovering the connection that had brought them together in the first place. Tentatively, they reached for each other, their hands trembling as they touched the icy runes. The cold seeped into their skin, but a warmth grew between them, a warmth that spread like a wildfire through their hearts. As they recited the ancient incantation, the room shuddered, and a brilliant light engulfed them. When it dimmed, Ashe felt a surge of power, an unyielding force that sang through her veins, a power she knew she could not wield alone. The storm raged on outside, mirroring the tempest within their hearts. Yet, as they emerged from the chamber, hand in hand, the wind seemed to pause, the snowflakes hovering in the air as if in reverence. The prophecy had spoken true, the power lay within her, but it was their unity that would be the real weapon against the encroaching darkness. With a newfound determination, Ashe and Tryndamere set out to face their most dangerous challenge yet, the heart of Lissandra's icy domain. The journey was fraught with peril, each step bringing them closer to the moment when they would confront not just the Ice Witch, but the shadows of their past. The storm grew fiercer, the landscape more treacherous, but they forged ahead, their love a beacon in the blizzard. Their bond grew stronger with every shared danger and victory. They fought side by side, their strategies perfectly in sync, their trust in each other unshakable. As they approached the enemy fortress, the whispers of doubt that had once plagued them were drowned out by the roar of their combined determination. In the heart of the ice, they found their captured commander, his spirit unbroken despite the frostbite that marred his skin. Lissandra's cruel smile was the only thing that greeted them, until Ashe raised her bow, the power within her pulsing in time with the rhythm of their hearts. A single, fiery shot sliced through the air, aimed not to kill, but to freeze, to encase the enemy in a prison of their own making. The Ice Witch's eyes widened in shock as the prophecy unfolded before her. The love between Ashe and Tryndamere had become a weapon she had never anticipated. Her spells faltered, her minions fell, and the very fabric of her power began to unravel. The battle was fierce, the air thick with the clash of steel and the scent of victory. As Ashe's arrows found their targets with unerring precision and Tryndamere's blade cleaved through the enemy ranks, the Freljord's allies watched in awe. They saw not just two leaders fighting for their land, but a couple whose love had been forged in the crucible of war, emerging stronger than ever. As Lissandra's fortress crumbled around them, the storm outside began to abate. The first rays of dawn pierced the clouds, painting the world in shades of pink and gold. With each beat of their hearts, the ice retreated, revealing the beauty of the land beneath. The Freljord had been saved, not just from Lissandra's icy grip, but from the coldness that had threatened to consume their own hearts.